Mick Cronin and the Bruins are making some moves for 2027 recruiting and beyond.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for coming back, everydayers. Man, we've got the show for you. But first, I have to mention, it's the 10th anniversary for Locked On as a company. So we're celebrating company-wide and telling you some top 10 fun moments to remember. So I was pondering, what should I talk about today? Well, segments 2 and 3 will be dedicated to none other than the top 10 Mick Cronin quotes/rants in his tenure at UCLA, and there's probably too many to even remember. You can debate me on those and hit me in the comment section at the end of the show for those. But to start things off, we're going to talk recruiting. It was the first time that coaches could officially contact 2028, so you're going to see a lot of offers from players saying they got offered. UCLA got some news about a 2027 offer, or visit, if you will, and then there's some UCLA baseball news, all in that first segment. So, what is UCLA getting? Well, according to Joe Tipton of On3, he was saying that UCLA is actually going to get a visit from a 4-star guard in the 2027 class. It's an unofficial visit, so it's not like all the bells and whistles will be brought out, but Justin Wise is coming to visit the UCLA side of things. He's a 6'4", obviously rising senior. He's a guard, comes in, had some good numbers at Jet Academy in the EYBL circuit, according to Joe Tipton. Numbers are 14 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, about 3 assists per game, 45% from the field, 36% from 3. This is what Jamie Shaw, the Rivals recruiting analyst, had to say. Seemingly is between the 1 and the 2, can shoot the ball off the catch, and that might be his power at the next level, his superpower. And then can move the ball, push it, low maintenance guy who raises the floor of his teammates, and can be a go-getter. That's what Jamie Shaw and Joe Tipton have reported about Justin Wise, who will be visiting UCLA. What makes this important? Well, he's out of Georgia. UCLA just got to commit Javonte Floyd in this 26 class out of the state of Georgia. So while Mick Cronin is trying to mend fences with the local AAU circuit, he was out at the Section 7 tournament out in Arizona over the weekend with all the coaches. Justin Wise's unofficial visit represents, okay, maybe UCLA's getting something. Because if Trent Perry pops off, he's probably not coming back for a 4th year. He's destined and wants to go to the NBA or take his talents to the next level after the 26-27 season. So you're going to need somebody who can shoot. Watching the highlight tape, good little shot with hands in his face, can get through, find and thread the needle with some passing. And depending on what UCLA needs, they either need the 1 or the 2. The Bruins will always take catch and shoot shooters. So when Mick Cronin needs for 27 and beyond, I think Wise could absolutely fit the billing. We'll see how it plays out, but just noticing maybe that Georgia connection, there's a pipeline there that UCLA is building more so than international, while they're diving into that now currently. In the future, maybe a year, they're going to go into Georgia. Interesting, 4-star kid, top 100 prospect, and I think he would fit the bill for what Mick Cronin wants, and hopefully a guy who can create potentially in the post-Trent Perry era. And after a roster where you're going to see a lot of these guys who have been there for 2, 3, 4 years probably move on to the next step in life playing basketball after UCLA. So there'll be a whole roster overhaul. The only thing you wonder is, while he's taking his unofficial visit, what's going on in the back of his mind? Is Mick Cronin on the hot seat, or is it, I love the facilities, I love this place, Cronin's got a big buyout, he's going to be here regardless, I want to be the guy that changes the atmosphere and the vibes here. Depends what mindset recruits come in. So for Justin Wise, big news, he's checking it out. And that's something because we haven't heard too much about people wanting to check out UCLA, especially from the high school level. Then, the funny legacy offer UCLA threw out there in 2028, one that obviously is a position of need. You're going to lose Xavier Booker. 7'3" Dylan Betts. Well, why does that name ring a bell? Well, that's because that is the younger brother of the Betts sisters. Lauren Betts' younger brother, Sienna Betts' younger brother, playing high school ball, I think mostly in Colorado. So for Dylan Betts, who did play at IMG Academy, so he's been playing in Colorado and in Florida, so he transferred to Florida prior to the beginning of the 2025 season, technically from Colorado. He's a 5-star prospect, top 10 player in the country, top 5 center, top 3 player in the state of Florida, which means UCLA and Mick Cronin better go tap on, hey, Corey Close's shoulder and say, hey, can you help us recruit one of the players that could be a program-altering type of player? Maybe. Now, obviously, that's a couple years in the future, so Cronin would have to survive this season and then the next season to even get Betts on that roster. But the fact that Sienna's currently here, projected to be here for a few years, I believe Sienna had a great time playing with her older sister on the roster. While it's not exactly the same brother and sister as it is playing on the same roster to win a national championship, a 7-3 top 10 prospect in the class of 28 is something Cronin desperately needs. And if Corey Close is willing to help a brother out, maybe UCLA can work in the family connections. Problem is, you would think the Betts family has a good feel for what's going on. If you're in the athletic department, if you're in the program on the basketball front, you probably know the ins and outs of the men's side. And Mick Cronin, what's his heart like? What's his coaching style? And will he even be there in 2 years' time by the time it's up for Betts to go to college? And the question is, will he reclassify? There's all sorts of things that can happen between now and then. But he threw out an offer. The other funny thing I saw was that he said he also got an offer from so many schools, since it was the first official day 28s could be contacted. Even USC threw him an offer, and older sister Lauren was like, absolutely not. No, that's not happening. So maybe there is some sibling talking to that can be helped to get UCLA. Otherwise, that would be a big get. They got a 27 visiting, maybe could represent some goodwill for UCLA in high school recruiting, and a 28 offer. There's been plenty, there's been more, but the Dylan Betts one stuck out for me as a player that, hey, you've got some connections, can you make it happen? It went from Jaime to Gabriella. Can UCLA go the other way from Lauren Betts to Sienna back to Dylan Betts? We've already seen it go back and forth, and one led to one championship, and the other one led for a Pac-12 championship. Maybe it can go backwards, and the UCLA men can benefit from the Betts family. And they can be the second royal family of the decade, right? You had Jaime Jaquez, you had the Jaquez family. Maybe the Betts family can be the next UCLA royal family on the basketball court. Meanwhile, UCLA, some of the names they wanted to check out at Section 7, Adon Diggs, 5-star, one of the guys who UCLA is looking out. Take a look. There's many coaches looking at him. So that was the premier prospect that UCLA was diving in and saying, all right, do we want to get a guy that's the top dude in the next recruiting class or so? But now that we see that UCLA is getting an unofficial visit, probably not going to go all in on the super 5-star of this class when you're going to get unofficially visited by the 4-star Justin Wise coming up pretty soon. So while Diggs is the premier prized recruit, we'll see what UCLA gets into now that they got a Georgia native coming in. Final thing for this first segment, UCLA baseball, just to kind of switch gears real quick before we go back to the Mick Cronin rants, is losing Peyton Brennan as a grad transfer. Yes, some stunning news from Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball. Kendall Rogers reported that he's heading to the transfer portal. Peyton Brennan, who last year was hitting .290, 11 doubles, 3 triples, 9 home runs, 52 RBIs, grad transfer. That's the biggest name that has put his name into the transfer portal. That's leaving UCLA baseball from this recent #1 overall season. All right. Now they're expecting to lose the Chalowskis, the Redemans, the Lavus, all the super talented people who have been there 3 to 4 years or are draft eligible. Okay. But the fact that Brennan is in the grad transfer, he's in the portal as a grad transfer, that's the third outgoing transfer. And you wonder what things had to go with there. Is it NIL opportunities? Because maybe he's not looking at a pro career. Maybe it's a different graduate program. Maybe things went poorly at the end. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have the ins and outs. Other people have more knowledge than me. But it is quite shocking that somebody who is very good at UCLA is leaving. And there was a good couple of years there for the Bruins where it felt like their best player was getting plucked by an SEC program. Namely, LSU. Oh, this best player, this best pitcher, transfer, more money, NIL. Right? Like that's your hurt. Like it just kept happening that way. Hopefully that trend does not return and UCLA is good at acquiring talent, retaining talent, but not losing talent. Now a grad transfer is always something a little different. We'll see how this plays out for Peyton Brennan. Wish him the best of luck, but some shocking news reported by Kendall Rogers just about a day or so ago in terms of baseball portaling. So we'll see how UCLA can replace that. Now, Brennan's gone. They did bring in the Creighton outfielder. Would have liked to have Brennan and all those guys stack the outfield and still have a good team next year. We'll find out how it eventually plays. Because remember, guys can always withdraw from the transfer portal. In the meantime, let's get cooking on this 10th anniversary for Locked On. Next, we're diving into what I think are the top 10 Mick Cronin quotes and rants possible. All right, and there are so many, you could go to any presser and conference and pluck one or two here and there. But I'm going to tell you from 10 to 1 what they are in my mind over this tenure of Mick Cronin for Locked On UCLA. Let's tell you about Rugiet, because throughout the NHL Finals, every shift mattered. Every moment is intense, everything comes down to execution, and it did when the pressure was at its highest. And just like athletes must be ready to perform when the puck dropped, a lot of guys want that same readiness and confidence in their own lives too. That's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers modern, performance-focused treatments designed to help you be ready when it matters. Their top option, Rugiet Ready, is a fast-acting, clinically formulated treatment that comes in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It's designed for convenience with fast absorption and effects that can begin in soon as about 15 minutes and last up to 36 hours. They also offer Go Long, a formulated approach to both performance and control for longer lasting needs. Helps guys feel prepared, confident, and control. In the playoffs, readiness isn't optional. It's everything. So for a lot of guys, that idea of being ready at the right moment carries over into everyday life too. That's exactly what Rugiet is built around. Think about this. You want to be prepared. Do you want to plan everything? What stands out is planning and being about timing. Well, something that works quickly and really changes the mindset. It's about confidence and being present in the moment. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men. Now let's tell you about the Everydayer Club. If you want to get your Locked On UCLA fix ad-free, go join the Everydayer Club for UCLA. You can get some Discord access. You can also jump in and have some fun ad-free, completely ad-free. Start your 7-day free trial. Click on the link in the show notes. The address is lockedonucla.supercast.com. Thanks for the support and be a part of the Locked On UCLA fam. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA. Zach with you guys. We're talking top 10 moments of Mick Cronin rants and quotes because we're honoring the 10-year anniversary of the Locked On Podcast Network. So, salute to our company, salute to all that. Here we go with Mick Cronin quote number 10. All right, I was diving. There's so many you can go through. Quotes, rants. Here we go. Number 10. If I focused on Joe Lunardi's hair, that would be tough. No, that guy's made a hell of a lot of money, so good for Joe. That was in reference to him looking and thinking about what his positioning is in bracketology, right? So you can go back and forth about what bracketology is. These are questions that Cronin has to field every March. And whether it is, something that he has to continue to deal with, whether UCLA is on the bubble or not, it is funny. He always likes to quip and say, I don't care what my team is. I want them to peak when the time is right. Now, we have many opinions about what that could be and what that should be looking like for UCLA, but the idea is he wants Joe Lunardi's hair. Any hair joke you can throw out there, Mick Cronin is probably going to have one, and he's going to have a good quip in general. All right, here's number 9. Turn left on Sunset. You've heard this one many times from Mick Cronin. Every time he talks about the job, you can hear him talk about how he is very understanding with John Wooden and very understanding of the importance of the legacy of the program, those 4 letters, the banners, what we represent with UCLA and what's represented with all the championships and the legacy and the hardwood at Pauley Pavilion. So anytime you hear him, any show, any podcast, anytime he says anything, whether it's Petros and Money, whether it's somebody, whether he's on with John Rothstein, you going to take that job? I don't want to go to Lexington. I'm going to turn left on Sunset. I like to turn left on Sunset, all right? going from Cincinnati to Westwood is probably a big culture shock, but one that I think he's enjoying, growing accustomed to, and if he wants to, he's got to get a lot better if he wants to continue to turn left on Sunset. All right, here we go. Next one is Mick Cronin sending Kelvin Sampson $1. This happened very recently. I talked about it, and if you didn't remember it, let's talk about it once again. Kelvin Sampson actually had a quote about him being poor and not having the NIL opportunities at Houston. Even Mick Cronin has referenced UCLA's own struggles in previous years in terms of the Reds wanted free agents, but the Dodgers got them. All right, well, UCLA's got the money, but the funny thing is maybe they have enough money that Mick Cronin sent his buddy Kelvin Sampson $1 and just said, all right, yeah, there's to fund your NIL because you don't have enough money. I think that's hilarious. That's absolutely hilarious for Mick Cronin and company with the fact that, why is he sending his boy Kelvin? That just shows you how connected these coaches are in the world, whether they're buddies, whether they're competing against each other. I thought that was kind of funny for Cronin to go out there and say, yeah, here's $1 for you. One of those weird antics that Cronin was able to do. All right. What a funny moment for Mick Cronin. Now we move on to number 7, one that Mick Cronin promised, and I think actually delivered in this one. He talked about in the offseason earlier this year that he wants the nastiest vodka-drinking Eastern European to help fill out the roster and bring a little more toughness to the squad, because that was in reference to the 4 and the 5, not getting rebounds, not being physical. And in the end, while there was a lot of returning players, UCLA did get their couple of Europeans. They did go get another international prospect, potentially another one. And whether they're the nasty vodka-drinking Eastern European type, we'll find out. But man, isn't that wild? Like, he just this is like in a day and age where some people like to reserve what they say. Cronin just says it how it is, for better or for worse. Sometimes too much, which we'll get to. But man, nastiest vodka drinking Eastern European. How about you walk up to the parents or the families and you're like, what's your pitch? Why do you think you're a fit for the program? I think this dude likes to drink, and he's mean, and he's nasty, and he's tenacious. Obviously, that's more hyperbole. That's a lot more of an embodiment. That's a spirit within. That's a toughness he wants with the program that can be the same as his type of gusto that he wants. But man, yeah, the nastiest vodka-drinking Eastern European is quite the thing for Mick Cronin. Goodness gracious. I mean, man, what a funny one for Mick Cronin there. Alrighty, so here we go. This is the final section of the first 5. This is number 6. You can tell me if you agree. Number 6. When the ball goes in, you become a much better coach. Yeah. How simply put is that? When the ball goes in, you become a better coach. And as much as we lament about the offenses from Mick Cronin and everything, it's pretty simple. When the ball goes in, you become a better coach. Simply put. What a funny man who can just be ridiculous, a little bit stagnant offensively, hence the quote. When the ball goes in, I'm a better coach. Awesome. Cool. Want to play defense? Awesome. Everything. Mick Cronin's philosophy and offense all said in one statement right there. That's kind of the state of the game. Numbers 5 through 1, the top 5 Mick Cronin moments coming up next here on Locked On UCLA. Stay with me. These ones get even better, longer, and juicier here on Locked On UCLA. This chaos can show up fast. The problem is that finding the right candidate can take a lot more time than most businesses can afford. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding that right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. That's what UCLA is trying to do. Multiple sports. You can go contact all the new players. It's the new efforts for recruiting season, and that's what you're probably trying to do if you're trying to go to Indeed. You want the perfect player, the coach, executive, whatever it is that can make your team better. You want to find the best person. And it's not always the splashiest ones. It's the one who fit exactly what the team needs at the right time. So spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. The right person cuts through the chaos, and it's a job for Indeed Sponsored Job. Listeners of the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? It's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, here are the rest of the quotes for Mick Cronin, numbers 5 through 1, his craziest quotes and antics that he's had in his tenure at UCLA. Some we probably don't even know because they were behind the scenes and everything. So here we go. This is number 5, continuing in line with our top 10 quotes and rants from Cronin in honor of the Locked On Podcast Network anniversary. So number 5, this is what he said earlier this year after Indiana, after they lost in a double overtime game. We couldn't score for a long time. That's how we got down 10. Missing wide open shot after wide open shot because we act like somebody stole our favorite toy and we're a 3-year-old. That was his quote after UCLA lost on a last-second foul with a tenth of a second left against Indiana in that insane game where the Bruins hit the buzzer-beating 3, Trent Perry, and the Bruins making a miraculous comeback to almost beat Indiana, a game that they had, blew, should have won in overtime, earlier in double overtime, and then instead UCLA fell short. That was the only game they lost at home, and he was talking about how this team lost because they were acting like a bunch of 3-year-olds. Okay, that was one of his quotes. So now we go on to number 4. All right, this one's a little bit more than a year old. Right now, guys, it's 12:40 a.m., and our season just ended. That's it. You're going to ask me about next year. Right now, my biggest concern is how bad the seats are on the Allegiant flight on that terrible plane that we're going to fly home tomorrow. That's him talking about what was the Wi-Fi, the bad situation, him being hungry after UCLA lost to Tennessee, and just having some sour grapes. We've seen this over and over again, but man, this one was an absolute hysterical one. Because it's like, come on, guys, why are you asking me about next year when the season literally just ended? The thing was, the portal had opened, and within weeks, the Bruins did end up landing Donovan Dent. So maybe it was an appropriate question. He got to moving pretty quickly, but he also didn't want to move on from the heartbreak and lament of the season after that one came to a bitter end against Tennessee. A game where, just like this year, the Bruins were the 7th seed against the 2 seed on the East Coast, and we've started to see the similar pattern. Some people might say it's sour grapes from Cronin. In the end, that's what UCLA was able to do. Number 3, all we're worried about is our shouting our crowd's busy. All we're worried about is our crowd's mind is in the wrong stuff. They make it worse. The stress in Poly is crazy. How about help the guy, cheer for the guy? He's not trying to miss the free throw. Everybody's mind is on the wrong stuff. When he was trying to implore the UCLA crowd, saying, we're not trying to intensely miss our shots. Come on, have some energy. Don't have some nervous energy when we're missing free throws at the end of games. It's like, oh no. Cheer for the guy. That's him trying to tell the fan base, hey, this is what we should do. This is what we need. We've seen certain coaches go out into the community and trying to get teams or get players or get their fans to come in, get the students to come in and cheer. And that was one of them for, hey, our crowd just shouting. They're just shouting, make the free throw. They're lamenting, they're groaning. And he's like, come on, get over it. All right, number 2. Number 2 is another one that went viral, but I think is already being very forgotten about. It's already been very forgotten. It was the first time UCLA played Michigan. It was early January 2025. This is when he came out, called his team soft and delusional. Soft and delusional. Came out and said, we need to go find the wizard. Said, I'm the only one coming out there to have any energy on the court. Called out his assistant coaches, his staff, the players. Says, I just want somebody, the hungry dog gets the bone. Somebody needs to go see the wizard, all right? That was his whole thing. And that was after Wicked Part 1 came out, all right? So that was probably fresh on the mind right when he was dropping those quotes. Obviously, there's other things probably going on around in that circumstances as well. But, man, that's when he was calling out his players, his staff, everybody. And then UCLA got a lot better right after that. That was one of the bigger ones that everybody got all bent out of shape for. But, I mean, man, UCLA, they played better after that one. So that was number 2. Now here is number 1, and I think you know where we're going to go with this. I could give a rat's behind about the other team's student section. I would like to give you kudos for the worst question I have ever been asked. To go on and say, "Are you raising your voice at me?" So obviously, that was the Michigan State reporter interaction after he had ejected Jamerson when the season was on the brink earlier this year, when it felt like Cronin was maybe on the way out. And he looked at the reporter who was like, "Man, that's the worst question I've ever been asked." And also, yeah, kudos. And are you raising your voice at me? When if you watch the tape, it doesn't seem like that was the case. Maybe just a little flustered from the coach standing in the hallway, really putting in an extra effort to give him a good sticking to with his verbal retaliation. Man, how long we've come, and yet here we are. UCLA in an interesting spot, trying to figure out the future, but you know who's not trying to figure out the future and who's in a great spot? Locked On here in our 10th year anniversary. Yes, I've been here close to 4 years doing this show. I appreciate you watching, listening, and everything. If there are quotes and ones you think I forgot, missed, funnier, worse, better, hit me in the comments and tell me what you think those are. All right? Tell me what you think those are. The Mick Cronin quotes and comments, any antics he did over these last 6, 7 to 8 years since he's become the UCLA head men's basketball coach. All right? Plenty of them. Fun top 10 list to be a part of. And we'll talk more UCLA football recruiting, the Brady Edmonds saga, any UCLA baseball departures, any UCLA basketball recruits, men's and women's. We'll talk all about that on future episodes of Locked On UCLA. But in the meantime, we celebrate our 10th year anniversary here with Locked On, and I hope you enjoyed our top 10 most enjoyable, crazy, insane Mick Cronin quotes and antics here with Locked On UCLA. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.